Is pain holding you back? Bowen Therapy with Panacea Healing can change that for you. It's never too late to recharge your health, career, or purpose. You have the power within yourself to change what no longer serves you, taking your life and health to another level. panaceahealing.com.au. You can do anything.
And thank you for joining us. You're listening and watching to The One Thing on Edge Radio Australia. I'm Lisa Byfield, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Leanne Jones.
Thank you.
And the gorgeous Aaron Malloy.
Gorgeous. Geez, I just stepped up from Pond Scum. Well done.
I tell you all the time how gorgeous you are.
You're very sweet. Very sweet.
Despite public perception.
Oh, wow.
And our special guest today is Tess Hackett. Tess is very nervous about being here today, and I totally understand why. Yeah. And we were just discussing, Leanne, weren't we, for all the guests that we've had on the show for the 18 months that we've had our show. This is, we've had some really important topics, but oh my God, like that you are a wealth of knowledge, and there's no way we're going to be able to cover everything today. But maybe if we just start by, for those that are listening and watching that are looking at these two words, gender ideology, very briefly in layman's terms, what does that mean?
It's basically the belief that people can change. We try not to use the word gender, but that they can change their sex, so that their belief that just by saying you're the opposite sex, believing you're the opposite sex, you can be the opposite sex. Now, there's all different layers of that and different levels of that, but basically it's that belief that gender is something that is fluid and that can change, and so people can change their genders very, very regularly. And so, with that comes name changes and pronoun changes and, all of that sort of stuff.
Thank you. That's a really great description. So thank you for just encapsulating that. Yeah. What I'd love to do is to find out a little bit about you, Tess. You live in Perth, Western Australia. Were you born and raised here?
Most of my life I've been here. Yes. So I came over when I was from Italy when I was 3. So I've been here most of my life. So definitely a Perth girl.
Yes.
Haven't sort of travelled very far, but I'm just a mum who was thrown into this situation and really didn't know or understand what it was, at all. Back in 2016, who knew about anything to do with gender? Gender was just a polite way of saying sex, on a form or whatever, instead of sex, male, female, whatever sex was listed. I mean, it's quite
a long list of choices now, isn't it, when you fill out a form?
Not on my forms.
The forms you give out, you mean?
It's male or female.
Well, I mean, I've seen, one of the websites that I've looked at, there's something like 360 different genders. I mean, there's even like cookie gender, there's,
What? All right, so please explain, what's a cookie gender? Literally, you can choose to be a cookie.
You can be a cookie gender.
I did like the Cookie Monster when I was a kid. So maybe I'm cookie.
Maybe, maybe you'll turn blue too.
But there's, there's aromatic, there's demi boys, there's obviously things like that most people have heard of, like non-binary and things like that. There's literally, it's just endless.
So how many children do you have, Tess?
2. Okay,
and how old are they?
25 and 20.
Right, and would you regard and you're married and with their dad?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So would you regard the upbringing that you had with your children as, I hate the word normal, but let's just say normal?
Very
typical. Typical. Thank you, Leanne. Typical.
Very normal. I was this mostly stay-at-home mum, although I did work a little bit part-time just for a bit of adult heads.
I can relate.
Free time, so I'm not just saying nursery rhymes all the time, but just normal, a normal.
Okay, so you went to the canteen and helped out at lunches, walked the kids to school.
All of that, took the kids to school, had play dates, we did the birthday parties, I was a pretty hands-on mum. I was involved with the PNF and, school excursions and all that. I was that mum that just did everything kind of thing.
So they went to private school or public school?
Private school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So because we just thought, we wanted them just to have,
the best of education, the best of everything.
And I mean, it's not an easy choice, to do things like that. It's expensive and we worked for it and, to give them the best start that we could. it was just, we had that level of commitment, I guess, to our kids, and that's what we wanted to do.
Do you sometimes pinch yourself and think, when did I walk into this horror movie?
I don't pinch myself, but I often say that I'm Alice in Wonderland, and I fell down the rabbit hole and I just can't get the hell out. And it's funny because that was the fairy tale sort of thing that I hated the absolute most as a kid. It used to give me nightmares.
I've got goosebumps all over just thinking about that.
And now I'm Alice. I mean, nothing makes sense, I've worked.
You explain that, because our viewers won't know.
No.
They don't know what actually happened. Just a little bit about how you fell into that rabbit hole.
So unfortunately, in our case, my daughter was a bit groomed. I hate that word, but groomed, and was eventually sexually assaulted by a school friend, and was too afraid to tell us to begin with. She did report it to the teacher, and the teacher failed to report it, unfortunately, told her to get over it.
So a female school friend or a male school friend?
School friend.
A male school friend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And for people that don't understand what grooming is, what does that mean?
The teacher had been telling them this type of, everything about the trans thing, promoting, the free sex, go and experiment. It's all healthy. You don't need to be jealous. You don't need to worry if you get, even the little things that I'd picked up on, like, oh, it's not STDs anymore, it's STIs. And I was like, why is it STIs? Because an infection is so much less bad sounding than a disease and stuff. And so, that's the change of language.
Wow.
So, So, you can have a pill and you can have a potion or whatever if you get an STI and you'll be fine. But, nobody tells them about, like if it's, some gross thing like, antibiotic-resistant gonorrhea or whatever. They don't talk about any of that. But it's just go, be free, do what you want sort of thing. And, so it really changing the thought patterns, I guess, grooming, really changing the thought patterns on what your family are. There's a lot of stuff that's even happening in schools now, like, the wellness programs are encouraging circles of trust, where circles of trust include the teachers, the school counsellor, principal, but they exclude parents.
Yes.
So it's very much about dividing kids from parents and stuff, and
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it is.
unbelievable. And everything you're saying is so real. And here's the thing, it's widespread.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably widespread.
It is.
I know of a school, and I don't want to take away, but I will very quickly say, I know a school in Perth that is absolutely actively grooming children.
Yeah.
No ifs or so. It's one of their counsellors, right?
Yeah.
School counsellors.
Yeah.
Kids, let's face it, being a teenager is unbelievably hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
Yeah,
Because you're learning everything on the run.
Yeah.
And then if you have somebody who comes in, especially at a school, especially in a position of power, maybe they work for a corrupt not-for-profit like something like Headspace, these sort of organisations, they come in as a position of authority and they start grooming your children.
Yeah.
This is very, very real and it's widespread. Everybody who's watching this, I hate to break it to you, if you have children, your children are currently being groomed. No ifs, no buts about it.
Yeah.
When did it start? You said, what year?
2016 for us. It'd been going for a little while. It sort of started, from my earliest, it was about 2015 when some of the things that my daughter had been saying just made me go, hang on, this isn't right. And I'm just trying to grasp my head around it.
Were you close to your daughter?
Yeah. Very. Yeah, we were very, very close up until everything happened. And then it was just.
And how old was she?
So she was 16 at the time, 15 when she was assaulted, and then 16 when I found out that she'd been assaulted.
This is very difficult.
Why wouldn't the school say something to you as a mother?
They work against you.
Honestly,
they work against you.
The teacher didn't say anything to anyone, though. He didn't report it. It was just like a completely unknown thing.
We've actually got a question that's come up here that I think it's worth, and I'm going to go back through the comments because thank you all for these great comments that are coming through. So this comment here, this is from Courage is the Cure. So the protective behaviours program in WA is schools is a disgrace. I completely agree with you. And something you wrote before that, this is the one I actually meant to grab. Let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The teacher has a right to report.
There we go. Are they bound to report it to principal for the bare minimum?
Apparently it's apparently like a thing. It's one of the rules as a teacher. It's a reportable incident,
and
he should have reported it instead of telling her just to, basically move on. And so she tried hard. She still was, dating this boy, going out with this boy, but she became very dark and very upset. And we took her to we knew something was wrong, so we took her to a psychologist and stuff. But from what the psychologist told me, they never really touched on the sexual assault issue at all. And it wasn't until I accidentally one night stumbled across an exercise book, just tidying up. She had stuff all over my desk and I was tidying up, and this exercise book, a spiral exercise book, sort of flopped open, and she'd been dark and she hadn't been doing well at school, which was unusual for her and stuff. But this was like a full page of writing and it was neat. And being the, very involved mum, I was like, oh, look, maybe she's starting to pick up wonder what subject this is. And so I picked it up and started reading it. And the first line was, "It's been 7 days since they raped me."
Oh, my goodness.
Telling that one word. How incredibly telling.
T-H-E-Y.
Yep. So 2016, who'd heard of they as a preferred pronoun? Like no one.
So when you say they, that sounds like gang rape to me.
That sounds
That's
like
what you would
gang
think,
rape
right?
to me as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't handle it very well. I didn't. I mean, how do you? There's nothing. There's no book that
preparation.
tells you how parents are supposed to handle this. But yeah, I went and sort of went, what happened? With this book, and she was horrified that I'd seen it. But I'd flipped through a couple of pages and there was just so much there were so many aha moments and things that had made sense. It just all the little bits of the puzzle fitted together and stuff.
And if she'd left it on your desk, you've got to wonder whether she'd actually wanted you to read it.
She'd been doing home. It did, it was me.
Yeah.
She was horrified, but maybe subconsciously, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if it had been some personal locked up diary, I wouldn't have kind of thing.
Exactly. If you're going to write something that personal, I wouldn't have left it on my mum's desk.
It was just in an exercise book, and I was genuinely just piling it all up,
Look, I know you personally, okay? And I know the fact that, and I consider you one of my closest friends, simple as that. And I know your husband, Bill, again, great, fantastic. You're just wonderful people, right?
Thank you.
Okay, full stop. So for me to see you guys going through this pain is unbelievable, right? And I see how it affects your everyday life.
Yeah.
But I also see through you and through other people how so many parents feel like they need to blame themselves, like they weren't a good parent.
Well,
I can stand here, sit here, whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
You come across, and everything I've seen of you, your lifestyle, the way you actually, and I've certainly seen the way you deal with your kids. You're a wonderful parent.
Thank you.
You're absolutely wonderful parent. You're the epitome of what people should be trying to achieve, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, for those who are being hit with this, I want you to basically just please look in the mirror and realize it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's just not your fault.
It's forces so beyond our control, and I mean, it's not just social media. It's not just people blaming social media and trying to put. I mean, yes, social media is definitely a part, but there's different websites. Like -18 is one of the really revolting websites, and they have a chat room for kids that you can go into. All of these groups that do the wellness programs and the wellness stuff for kids have always grouped together 12 to 25-year-olds. Now,
I mean, I always wondered about that.
So even Headspace last year had they had a sexpo up at the Ellenbrook Library.
What?
Sexpo. Yeah, so we found out about it. Apparently, because of the complaints that came in, Headspace pulled out at the last minute, but it still went ahead. We sent some people there and we called the police and did all that. But it was advertised as 12 to 25-year-olds. Now, there's a 12-year-old is a child.
Of course, absolutely.
A 25-year-old's an adult.
That's right. I was a married man with kids and business at 25.
Yeah.
And at 12, I was picking my nose.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
You can't to group them like that is just. I mean, it really shows the agenda, quite frankly.
It does.
Yeah,
Did you want to share some more about your story? I'm just very conscious of the time that we have a time slot, and I want you to be able to share as much as you can.
So obviously I tried to report the assault to the police. The police weren't interested. They sort of said, look, it had been a couple of months beforehand. My daughter had been dating this boy, so it's hearsay. There's no evidence. There's all of this sort of stuff. So it was a big fat nothing, which was really frustrating as a mum, and also frustrating to my daughter. Eventually anyway, we pulled her out of the school where she was and got her away from the boy that she was seeing every day that had sort of assaulted her, got her away from the teacher and stuff. Strangely enough, she reported that I'd found out about the rape to the teacher, and the teacher ran away to Canada, where he's still teaching today.
Wow.
Well, Canada certainly, no, I shouldn't say this. Canadians are great people, but I'll tell you right now, the politics in that country at the moment is very, very dicey.
Yeah,
it really is.
it is.
And I'm going to say politics quickly and interrupt your story because I think this is so massively important, right?
Yeah.
We're about to have an election.
Yes.
Okay? Tell me the politician, okay, who quite frankly opened this door. Now, I hate this politician for this particular person. I hate her for particular reasons, right? So, but there's something we all should know.
So in 2013, Julia Gillard removed the term sex from the Sex Discrimination Act. Whether that was a deliberate thing, people speculate. We've sort of seen some evidence that prove it wasn't just a coincidental thing. It wasn't just a polite way to say sex, but she removed that. And so basically it means that women don't exist as a definable class anymore. So a woman now is basically anyone that believes they're a woman. So
there's 4 women here. Lovely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how dumb it is. That's how dumb it is.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of cleavage, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but do you have a vagina?
So Labor
not.
and Greens are very much behind this. And the other thing that's super, super concerning at the moment is that since Labor got in 2023, the Australian Plastics Association are trying to push to have all of these surgeries, all of the gender-affirming surgeries paid for by Medicare.
Now, on that front, I was on social media 2 days ago with this very point, okay? And people were saying that that's not true. And I actually put the legislation, all the information up there, right? Okay, and people are still... Now, when I check, this is important again when we're heading towards an election. When you check the identities of all the people who are complaining and actually fighting, they're all bots. They're all fake, right?
Yeah.
So there is a paid agenda to push this kind of carry on.
Absolutely.
These are not real human beings who are up against it. Yeah.
What age will Medicare pay this gender?
We don't know specifically, and it depends on the parents. It depends on the courts. We know that Michelle Telfer, who was the person behind the Australian Standards of Care for Transgender Health, has admitted on an interview a while ago now that a girl as young as 15 has had her breasts removed.
Oh, my word.
But the thing is, what age is it okay to do this? And breast removal is probably the mildest, should I say, of all of the suggested surgeries.
Yeah.
So, it's removing breasts for women, it's putting on implants and stuff for men who want to be women. It's all of the genital surgery. So removal of penis, removal of testes, creation of a neo-vagina and stuff, which, some people, manage to be okay kind of with that. The more concerning part is the phalloplasty, where they actually take the forearm skin or a bit of thigh or like a flap at the back of a person, on a person's back, sort of near their shoulder, and they create like a fake penis kind of thing. So they use part of the skin to create the urethra, where the urine comes out of, sort of thing. And we know from people, lots of detransitioner stories talk about how bad it is, but one in particular for people to look up is Scott Nugent.
Okay.
Scott Nugent was somebody who decided to transition, and he went and did the whole full surgery, and it's nearly killed him. He has had nothing but grief. He pees out of a catheter most of the time. He's had leakages. You have fissures. You have it's horrific.
Okay.
It's like Frankenstein surgery.
Well, let's talk about something we don't want to talk about. So when, for argument's sake, when a male is, and I don't even want to use the term transitioning, okay, when you decide to basically mutilate yourself, all right, or you're certainly pushed into that, and say a man turns into a woman, right, okay, and most of this seems to be the other way, but okay, in this particular case, when they make a false vagina, they literally make a permanent wound.
It's a wound.
It's a wound, and they have to actually insert things in themselves and do all these things.
It's like 8 hours a day of insertion, and it's
horrific.
Painful.
So the word evil is
can I just ask you a question, Tess?
Yeah, sure.
There will be some people watching that will be thinking the same thing that I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you believe that with a consenting adult that it's okay if somebody wants to do that? So you think under any circumstances people shouldn't be allowed to?
What if the person, and this is out of the left field as well, because this is someone who I came across who's actually hermaphrodite. And felt that they were brought up as a boy.
So hermaphrodite is intersex. So it's a sexual disorder. It's basically a birth defect. Now, I don't include, in the alphabet, LGBT, a lot of people say I don't include that. I've met a couple of people who are hermaphrodites in the old term, intersex is now what they're called, with sexual development disorders. And I think for them, like any sort of disability or any sort of anything that you're born with that's not quite right, you've got to do what you need to do. It still doesn't change your sex, even with a sexual disorder. I mean, you're still only male and female.
Yeah, the problem with her was she grew up, and the family said that she was a boy, but she started to develop breasts as a teenager.
Gotcha.
And then had never and didn't understand it because they still told her she was a male. Yeah. And so there was a lot of confusion
I imagine
for her.
It would be so distressing, like any other sort of birth defect or anything like that. You've just got to do what you've got to do. But
see, I don't have an issue if a consenting adult wants to do it because they're a consenting adult. And
for me, no.
And they might they might have believed that they've been born into the wrong body. And once they've gone through all the interviews and the psychology and everything. What I don't like is the generalization of what's happening.
But what you're saying is there is no. So we were offered puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in the first 25-minute appointment at the gender clinic. There is no therapy. There is nothing. It is like, I mean, one of my best friends is a trans person, female to male trans person. He transitioned as an adult, and he went from A to Z in 3 months.
Okay.
Now, it's not a long period. I mean, he hasn't had all of the surgery and all of this sort of stuff. But, I mean, most of this surgery is largely very experimental.
And what are his thoughts on it?
He agrees with me. He agrees with us. He's part of my organisation.
So he wishes he hadn't done it?
I don't think he's quite there. For him, it kind of worked. He was a butch lesbian, very male-looking butch lesbian to start with anyway. Yep. He didn't have all the genital stuff because he went, that's just insane. It's too experimental. There's too many lifelong consequences.
Yep.
But you've got to start looking at the harms. I mean, there was a review done in the UK. There was a lady called Hilary Cass who's now been given title of Baroness. It was a gold standard, the biggest gold standard study done into this stuff in the whole world, based in the UK, but she also looked at some of the Australian hospitals and stuff, and she found it was just disastrous. There's nothing to say that people's lives improve after they transition, and in fact, the suicide rates increase.
So that's interesting.
Now, comment again, and again, I want to thank 𝐤𝐴𝐥𝐲 for these fantastic comments. Gender affirming care. It's child abuse.
It is absolutely
child abuse. Now, they're looking at the term gender affirming care. Again, we're using language to soften things. Okay, even I'm going to use an example. It's got nothing to do with sex, gender, or this subject. But work with me on this one. Shell shock. Right? Where did shell shock come from? Okay, it came from literally the people who were coming back with bombs and firing, all of that from World War One. Now, through all the different wars, through all the conflicts, they keep changing the name, and it's now called PTSD.
Yes.
Okay. And now everybody can have PTSD. Right. Okay. But by doing that, what you're doing, you keep changing the name, you're softening it.
Yes.
You're using the language to make it acceptable to society.
Yeah.
Right. Gender affirming care. That's just an utter lie. It is child abuse by any definition. When it's happening to someone under 18, when it's happening to someone over 18, it's just literally, well, to me, in a lot of cases, it is an acceptance of a fetish.
It is very much, and a lot of it is very fetish based. The �WPATH file whistleblowers that came out sort of about February or March or so last year showed all that. That's, people on the �WPATH, which is the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, are heavily involved in the kink community. They had a castration kink. So version 8 of the �WPATH guidelines actually discusses castration kink. So where they just take off the testicles and leave the penis. And so that's now an acceptable thing, to do. And that's one of the included surgeries that Medicare is going to be paying for. If Labor
Medicare is going to be paying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Labor Party. Thank you, Labor Greens.
Yep.
And we've got people out there that have genuine health conditions that can't get treatment.
Help. And that's part of the problem. Now, using Scott Nugent as an example. So he's been in and out of hospital. He's nearly died. He's had so much stuff. He's constantly on antibiotic and infections. He's constantly, peeing out of a catheter tube because it's not working and stuff. Mm-hmm. So even as an adult, if you consent to doing this type of surgery and it fails, which it likely will, who picks up the tab? Who cares for these people afterwards? It's taxpayers. It's Medicare. And as you said, lots of people are already struggling to get healthcare. One study that came out towards the end of last year was like, it talked about girls that started testosterone around the 18 mark, something like 84 or 87% had fecal and urinary incontinence by the time they're 30.
Wow.
Do you know, I still think 18 is too young. You still don't know what you're doing at 18.
And the thing is that when you start looking at the people who are wanting to transition, most of them have trauma, like my daughter, autistic. They really function, really hit on the autistic kids. Yeah. I mean, they've now got, they're now targeting Down syndrome kids to do drag queen stuff. So, who knows where that's all going. So, I mean, how does turning 18 magically make it all your mental illness? And, kids have got borderline personality disorder. They've got schizophrenia and stuff. So how is it that magically at 18 you can make these decisions?
Who do you believe they is? I always find it really interesting when we talk about they in so many conversations.
So we know that it's coming from UN, and I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but we have the documents. It is coming from the UN. It comes from the UN into schools from an organisation called 𝐂𝐿𝐴, which is responsible for our national curriculum. And then from there it comes in from places like 𝐊𝐴𝐞𝐲, which is the old AIDS Council of New South Wales, Transcend Australia, Equality Australia, all of these. So 𝐴CON and things like go into businesses. So, you get all the rainbow advertising and stuff in banks and stuff. So they push all this.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere now.
Absolutely everywhere. And they are the money behind the bills and things. They get paid so much money to push this agenda onto people. And then, we know from different court things that have happened and stuff, which unfortunately can't sort of talk about, but there's so much corruption in the courts and people just don't understand. And, if you're a parent who suddenly has this happen and, you try and, look at now, there's conversion therapy laws in nearly every state except WA so far, which they're going to be bringing it in now. People go, well, conversion therapy laws are a great thing, except that when you look at it, it's not for the old style. People think conversion therapy is what used to happen, when you try and make homosexuals straight, years and years ago. And there's already laws against that. This conversion therapy, the modern branch, is to stop parents and it's to stop therapists from getting any sort of real help for your kids. So anything that will delay, pause, distract, or anything your child from going from A to Z, as fast as possible, because unfortunately the Australian standards do state that anything non-affirming and not getting them medicalisation and surgery as soon as possible is abuse. So like Victoria it's a 10-year jail term and a $200,000 fine for trying to stop your kid transitioning.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just sounds like,
it sounds unbelievable. And the system is saying parents aren't doing enough, but they're actually taking hold of the school system.
I'm telling you right now. And I'm sorry for any teachers out there that are good teachers. I've got a teaching background. I know lots of lovely teachers. Schools are now not safe places for kids.
That's what I'm saying. So, but schools are always saying, these kids are coming to us and we have to educate them because the parents aren't doing the right thing. But it's not the case at all. They're actually grooming them.
Yeah.
My stepdaughter was watching porn in class, on her iPad watching porn in class. Yeah. Okay, and I got the email from the teacher telling me that this was going on, because, right. So
Please explain what you mean by porn.
Porn, watching other people have sex, watching sexual videos on her iPad at school in Mandarin class while she's learning the language.
I was going to say, and a lot of that comes because a lot of the porn is coming in as anime cartoon porn. So those studying Japanese or Mandarin or things like that, the school filters can't block that out. The porn and that. So if you study Japanese and stuff, because we know that there's a huge, from talking to people, there's a huge percentage of kids that are unfortunately doing Japanese at school that stumble onto the anime, which is full of trans and it's full of porn.
Well, my point is this, and this was my first foray into saying how disgusting schools were now, right? So I get the email telling me my child's doing something inappropriate. Yeah. Okay, so and then they said, so I spoke to the head, what do you call him, principal. Okay, and she said to me, oh, no, they can't do that because they've got all the nanny sort of stops with the internet. And then the teacher said, no, what they do is they put one kid puts their phone there.
Yeah.
Okay. Hotspot. Everybody jumps onto hotspot, and they all watch porn together. That's what they're doing at school now, right?
Yeah.
So this is what my, are you ready for this, 12-year-old daughter was doing at school, okay, or stepdaughter in this particular case. I hate saying stepdaughter, but I've got to define that, okay, in this particular case. So anyway, I did what I thought a responsible parent does, okay, and I banned her from the iPad, and I took the iPad from her, okay, and said, you've got 2 weeks without your iPad.
Yeah.
The school then put pressure on me and said that I was damaging her education.
Yes.
And I said, no, hang on. You've got iPads you can lend her.
Yeah.
Right. When we signed onto the school, it's all techie and we don't use much paper. We use iPads.
Yeah.
You said you had cut the crap here. Okay. Not every parent can afford to buy a $900 iPad for their kid, right? So, okay. And this school was in a socio-economic area, which there were a lot of struggling parents.
Yeah.
So, okay. So they said they had iPads that they could supply the kids. No, they had. I've been given 2 figures. Once I was given 4, and the other time they said there were 6 spare iPads for the entire school. So they told me I was basically damaging my daughter's education if I didn't give her back her iPad.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, right? But what you've done is you've taken my ability to parent away from me.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, it comes back to like they want to lay the blame and all kind of thing. The blame lies absolutely totally at the system.
Yeah.
Right. And the people who are controlling.
I'm glad you said the system because there's a lot of good teachers, as you said, and they're just trying to do their job.
Yeah.
I mean, I
some
hear
are grooming though. That's the fact.
I hear from a lot of teachers who are just horrified and share information with us and stuff, but they're scared for their jobs. They know they can't say anything against it. I mean, it's just torture for them to do it, but they're so punished. I mean, it's the same with good therapists and good doctors that are out there that are dead against this. They get all these vexatious claims made against them and stuff, and then they have to go in front of APRA and they have to get lawyers, and they have 18 months or 2 years down the track there
their business is gone because
that's right. So
victimised.
it's just ridiculous.
So you're providing support now for other parents like yourself?
I started a parent support group because there really was nothing at the time, and I think back to the whole Alice in Wonderland thing. I mean, I didn't even know what this was. It's very, very hard to Google or anything, but eventually I stumbled across an American group. And I wrote to them and sort of told them everything, and by then I'd already investigated a lot of what was then the Safe Schools program, which was just so bad. And so I'd helped organise a rally in Melbourne, a protest rally in Melbourne at Parliament and stuff. And so I told them all this, and they said, look, we've got parents that need help. Yeah. I've got hundreds of parents now in my group. I've probably getting up to the thousands of people that I've spoken to. And the thing that's really weird, people say, oh, this is like this natural thing that kids have always been this way. But how is it that when you speak to a parent in Italy or Sweden or Hong Kong or Germany or Israel, that their kids are doing the same exact steps, they're saying things in the exact, same sentences and everything? It's a whole scripted thing. And this is what there's nothing organic about this.
No, nothing at all.
This is a social contagion, and it's grooming, and it's just
evil.
It is pure evil, and very much now though too. So because it's been 9 years for me now, things have changed a bit. So I don't believe, after talking to parents, that all of the kids are even gender dysphoric these days. It's not that they want to be the opposite sex anymore. It's just that they want to be trans. Yeah. Because when you become trans, so imagine if you're a kid who is a little bit different, a bit quirky or whatever. You go to school, you're either ignored or bullied or something. You make the announcement that you're trans, and presto, all of a sudden you are superstar in the school. Like literally,
all your problems go away.
Everything goes away. And so they stick hard with this, this persona.
So what exactly does it mean to be trans?
It can mean anything. I mean, Aaron can say, Aaron, are you a woman today?
I frocked up. I have frocked up in the past. It has happened.
So if you're trans, you basically can, like you said at the beginning, you can be fluid.
It's just a sex.
But you don't have your sex organs changed.
You don't have to. It's just the declaration.
It's more like
so that's what
Queen of the Desert.
That's a great point. Because even forgetting drag queens, right? We used to have this word, called transvestites.
Yes, that's
Rocky
the word.
Horror
That's
Show, right?
That's what I keep thinking of when you say that.
And I'm so angry about this on so many levels. For me, I mean, I love women. Right? I know that that's hard for some people to believe, but I actually, like I said this the other day, I think that like making women accountable is not misogyny. Okay, it's accountability. It's equality. Yeah. It's equality, right? To make women accountable for their actions. we also need to make men accountable. Now, right now, I know. I've shocked myself.
We also need to make men accountable.
You are going to record that and run it on a loop now.
Men accountable.
But here's the thing. What's happening now, in my eyes, right? And I think I've got enough of a grasp on this. I think I've got enough of a sample size that a lot of weak men are going, you know what? Women have all the advantage in the world right now because you do, right? Okay.
I don't see it like that, but go on.
Absolutely. Every bit of legislation would say this.
I think it's part of it.
I think weak men are going like, okay, I'm a weak man. I'm not respected by other men. Okay, all that kind of carry on. And therefore this, by glomming onto and stealing femininity from women, because you're stealing. Women are a beautiful thing, and you know what? Masculinity is a great thing as well. We need both. We've got to have both. And
I used to love looking at the transvestites, though, that were dancing up on stage and stuff. I thought they were really cool. Yeah. They weren't. There was nothing wrong with it.
Except that now they're going and doing it with little kids in libraries and stuff.
And the highly
sexualized books.
Yeah,
I never had a problem with it either.
Because look at what we grew up with. You know. Queen and you know, like a
David Bowie when he was wearing Prince in his high heels.
Look,
you know,
most people in entertainment, have highly questionable sexual. You know, let's face it. Okay, there's
but I never saw it as bad. I never ever saw it as bad until now.
But it's not supposed to be for kids.
No, that's right.
It's adult entertainment.
And I think this is the thing that most people didn't have an issue with this until they started coming after our kids.
That is wrong.
And they came after our kids with the COVID jab.
Yeah, they did. But this has been even pre the COVID jab. You know, I mean, there's just things that should never happen. And see, a lot of the time now, kids are becoming trans, to be love bombed, to be popular, but it's also political move these days. It's also part of this sort of socialist Marxist thing that you're never going to get true equality anywhere until you get rid of gender. And so by becoming this,
but you can be anything.
Non-binary, whatever, then that's the utopia, the Marxist utopia is no gender. So
Marxism, like a lot of us thought it was over in 89, 91, with all the Berlin Wall and the fall of communism through USSR. No. All it did is it pushed it underground. And I'll tell you what, like from a marketing point of view, they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, they do.
So the Marxists have taken over the universities. They've taken over the education system. They've taken over the lobbying of politicians and lawyers and so forth. The whole thing, it's very clever. Right, but it's also incredibly evil. And what we've fundamentally seen is something that people don't want to accept. People do not want to accept this. Sadly, there is a ridiculous amount of people, like far too much of the people who are the elite of the world, who control are pedos. They are.
They're grooming our children.
They are. That's what this is. Unfortunately, that is a big percentage of those in power. I'm not saying all of them, but far too many of them.
You need to get back into politics. You and Jeff.
Jeez.
The Jeff and Aaron show.
We'll be our running mate, I guess. But I'm passionate about it because I really care. Like we joke about all the kind of gender stuff as far as like the point of view, like you and I pull a Mickey out of each other because, you often think that I say things that are a bit, harsh towards women. But I want women to be exactly, if you believe in equality, like I had a wonderful, amazing mum who was powerful and intelligent and like just absolutely ran rings around the world, right? Okay. I love that. Good. That's what I wanted, okay? But she wasn't a badass bitch, you know what I mean?
I don't know, that's me.
Oh, no, you're not. You have a heart of gold. So you can be powerful and you can be intelligent and you can take control and all of that sort of thing, but still be feminine.
The problem is, like, at the moment, all the states in Australia now have what we call the self-ID bills. So they're the ones where so here it's got this big long name. It was like the Births, Deaths and Marriages Sex and Gender Bill that was introduced. It was pushed through by Labor, and they had Danielle Laidley as the poster child for this. Now, I mean, those sort of bills are not even.
We're not even told about them.
But it's not even a trans issue. Well, it was debated at something like, 1 a.m. and stuff. That it wasn't open for public comment.
That's right.
My organisation did do a submission and stuff that we handed around and we looked at it. So basically it means that you're allowed now to change your sex or gender markers on your birth certificates once a year, every year if you want to, so you can be different sex.
What do you mean? You contact the birth and registration?
You go to the Births, Deaths and Marriages and you say, I'm a woman now. So, Aaron, you can go,
I'm not even joking about this, and I mean this, right? Okay, I have seriously considered going into birth tests and marriages. I want some advantages, right? Okay, I'm sick and tired of being this, this boring old white male.
Plus, you get cheaper insurance and stuff.
Oh, exactly, right. And I can better car parks. I mean, there's all sorts of advantages, right?
You can go in every 12 months.
So I can go in there.
Can you change your race?
Yes. So I can go in and I can, and this is what I mean. I've literally been thinking about doing it, going in and identifying as a woman of colour.
Yeah. Well,
and I can do it. Ridiculous.
You don't have to have any proof?
Well,
I don't know about the race. No, it's just because this is the thing that you just say you are, and so you are. So the problem is, like, we've got women that have gone into gyms. I've got a friend who's been in a gym in Inaloo and for 20 odd years, and they've got a group that they go meet regularly and stuff. And all of a sudden one day a guy comes in with an erection into the change room where they're all getting changed.
Wrong.
And so they go and complain, and they say, well, look, if you don't like it, this is our equality
oh my God, the world's gone mad.
If you don't like it, you're welcome to leave and stuff. So it's actually getting to the point where women are being punished for having men in men's spaces.
Agreed.
Now, I mean, I feel for people who, are transitioning, like, where do they go? But, like, you can't put the safety of one group, women, you can't put their rights to safety behind.
It's a minority taking over for the majority.
Well, I agree. You just made a terrible assumption, though. You're making the assumption that men are violent, right, by saying that they're women's safety.
No, but they're bigger. No. And that's why I always say opportunistic predatory males.
Bingo. And they're the people who are doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so most men, we wake up every day, and you know what we want to do in life? We want to protect women, right?
That's it.
But predators, no.
No,
right?
that's it.
And there's a distinct difference, okay?
And
they're the ones that are doing this.
If you still have a penis, you should not be in a female change room.
I don't even think it's even that. Even if you've had it chopped off, you are still a male.
Yeah, you are.
You are still a male. You're still bigger. You're still stronger. Most of them are porn-addled and have got all sorts of weird and wonderful kinks. I mean, you start looking at some...
They're porn-addled?
Yeah, porn addicted. They are addicted to porn, and I mean, some of their porn is just, they But the thing is too, to remember that most of the guys who transition to female don't actually get their penises removed. They like to have their penises, so they might get breast implants because they like breasts, and they might go on enough estrogen just to soften the edges, shall we say, but not enough to stop their penises from working and stuff. So you look on X, because that's the only place we've got any free speech and stuff at the moment, and you can see that because they
want the best of both worlds.
They post videos of themselves masturbating in women's toilets, masturbating in rape shelters.
You've got to be kidding me.
No.
You know this video that we're doing right now, okay? It's going out to many different platforms. And I'll tell you right now, I know 2 platforms we will have the video pulled from.
Yeah.
No question about it. No
Facebook, definitely, because I've said sex too many times.
Definitely be pulled from YouTube as well, probably.
Yeah, no question about it. It will definitely be. So we'll just get away with it for as long as we possibly can. And that's another thing. Again, a little self-promotion. But the fact is, this is why, people like, Courage is the Cure, ourselves at Edge Radio Australia, so many different organisations who are actually standing up for these important issues.
My organisation, Active Watchful Waiting, we do a lot behind the scenes. Active Watchful Waiting.
Yeah, the VAs already have all of your links there to put up.
Yeah, and we've also got In Defence of Children. So we try and gather as much information as possible. We have a lot of people that contact us with their stories and stuff. We also run a website called Lost Women's Rights, which is quite scary, where it's women sharing stories of just the results of having men in private spaces and stuff like that.
We have a right to our own spaces.
Yeah.
We have a right to it.
Yeah,
you have a right as a woman to, if you want to go get nude up in front of someone else, knock yourself out, but there shouldn't be a bloke there with an erection, right? That is, I mean, the fact that I've got to say it is ridiculous.
I know.
What about if you identify as a furry?
Oh God, furry. So furries are a whole different ball game.
Because I only heard that recently, right?
So we've got in Queensland at the beginning of the year there was a teacher sacked for wearing cat stuff, so ears and I think maybe a tail. I'm not sure about the tail, but definitely ears. And she was hissing and carrying on at students and stuff. And she was Miss Cat.
Miss Pussy.
Yeah, something like that.
Sorry, it had to be said.
Some kid recorded it and she's been sacked.
Yeah.
We've heard from lots of people that they've got furry kids that believe the animals. I've got a friend who is in a school in ACT who was suspended because there was he's not very into school, and he was getting very distracted because there was a boy in the class who thought he was a dog. He had a squeaky toy that he was constantly squeaking in the classroom. So he got suspended for 3 days for misgendering and for complaining about this furry in the class.
Guess what? This isn't actually, okay, they're not a furry. They're not a dog. They're not a cat. They're mentally ill, right?
I want to say
it's not even that. It's just attention-seeking behaviour, most of it. It's just because they get their own way.
Let's look at a great example. Dylan Mulvaney, right? If you watch any of his stuff before he decided, jumped on the train of transgender, right? Before
he was just a lovely gay boy who's completely ruined himself.
And you know what? What's wrong with a gay boy?
Nothing.
I've got gay mates. Tell you what, good friends, right?
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. You go do what you do, right?
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
It's not a gay issue, although
it's not.
I really believe, because I mean we've got a saying, you know, they try and trans the gay away. So if you've got a girl who's, you know, internalized homophobia or whatever, doesn't want to come out as gay, well, you know, just transition to a boy. You can appear like a boy, and then you can go out with girls and you can be straight. You know. So
you're not straight.
Just be gay.
No, but that's what it is.
But your blood type is always going to be.
Every cell in your body
is still the way you were born.
Cell. You've got the chromosomes that say that we're a mammal species. Mammals cannot change sex as much as you want to, as much as you can change your appearance. They just don't.
It's such a sad world, isn't it? When
it is.
when people think that doing that is going to make them happy, because for 99.9% of people it's not going to make any difference,
but
and in actual fact it'll make them a lot emotionally worse.
So what happens, you know, like back in the 80s, I remember, you know, reading the old Dolly magazines, and there was all these slogans like love the skin you're in.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
What happened to that?
What happened to that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a really cruel goal to set a kid. So you get a kid who's going through horrible puberty, and let's face it, puberty is horrible for everyone. Who's confused, who's, you know, a bit worried.
And we didn't even have social media.
No, that's right. And that's
now.
it. But you go here, you've got all these issues, but, you know, we'll give you this magic off-label pill. Puberty blockers are an off-label drug. Or, you know, you can have surgery and stuff, and it'll take everything away. I mean, it's not doing anything but hurting them. You know, like long term, it's just hurting them. So wouldn't it be better to be able to give them some really good therapy and help them become comfortable as the unique, special people that they really, really are?
Agreed.
You know, like that's what is needed, and that's what's illegal.
How about some love and some compassion?
Yeah.
Right?
And then putting our resources and keeping families together.
Yeah.
Then we're going back to the beginning of the entire situation. The whole reason to break families up was to make money. Okay,
and
what they're doing here, that's all that money.
To keep kids
under
breaking
control.
the family makes kids vulnerable.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of kids that are trans on the street. Now, though, saying that, you know, they're speaking to a couple of detransitioners in Australia who have struggled with, you know, possibly being homeless and stuff. All they needed to say was they were trans again, and they'd get housing like that. So,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you get more NDIS funding apparently. You know, all of these sorts of things.
Wow. So who makes these rules?
Government. The government.
Lobbyists who control government.
And all of the,
So you said earlier on before the show that you've been doing a lot of conversations with politicians.
Yes, I have.
What would you say to everybody? Who do we need? Who do we not need?
Look down the camera here right now, okay?
Look, this is unfortunately, it's a Labor and a Greens problem.
Yeah.
We need to get independents who will preference Liberals. We need Liberals. We need people like One Nation. We need what's Gerard Rennick's party? People's.
Gerard Rennick,
He's great. Is it People?
Yes, I know.
I can't think of what it is, but anyway.
But the new one,
I mean, I've met with Gerard. He's amazing. He gets this, you know. I mean, they're the ones that need our votes because our kids need protection. I mean, you know, unfortunately, I've been the last 12 months in the situation of having my mum was in an accident, and we've discovered the absolute worst of the worst of, you know, public healthcare system, and it's so broken. How are we going to pay for all these surgeries for these mentally unwell kids, and then what happens afterwards with the cancers increase and with you know, incontinence and with, you know, brittle bone
but
things.
You've missed the whole point. You've just created customers forever.
That's
right?
it. That's
what you've done. Broken families make customers forever when it comes to the legal profession, all of that, okay? And all of the services, all the mental health services.
And medical.
Spot on.
Big
medical.
pharma.
Exactly. We're making big pharma, all of those.
It's just evil.
It is just evil. And I'll tell you what, that is the word for today's show. We're going to have to end on that. So thank you very much, Tess.
Well, it went so quick.
Just before we go, I would love for you just to say a few words to anybody that's watching that needs support or knows somebody that needs support and wants to share your information or what we've done today.
So we've got websites and they've been posted, so you can contact us through our website. You know, we're just a small group. We support each other. We've got a lot of passionate people trying really, really hard to get information out there for people. So, contact us. You know, you're not alone. You're not stuck in Alice in Wonderland, even though it feels like it sometimes, but you're not alone. And the thing is that the majority of people agree with us. You know, like, I mean, there was some surveying done in New South Wales around this topic for the Equality Bill in New South Wales, and it was something like 81 or 87% of the population agreed that they didn't want all these bills coming in and stuff. So please, you've got to be careful, but stand up. Go and talk to your MPs and find out where they stand.
Do you know what you can do? Everybody can do something. Everyone goes, I'm one person. I can.
No,
yes, you know what? You
letters.
Absolutely can.
Vote.
Write letters. Vote, okay, when this
Make
election,
sure you vote.
I mean this. Do whatever you can. I don't care how biased it sounds. Do whatever you can. Keep your votes away from the Greens and the Labor Party. They are truly, they are Marxists. That's what they are. This, and we try
and
to
any independents that go to the Labor Party because people actually don't understand that.
No.
And I also want to say this. Okay, you don't know I'm going to say this, so there we go. But as far as, a lot of people are putting a lot of effort into this, okay, and they're losing their jobs and they're putting so much pressure on. So if you know what, if you're at home and you're in a position to donate a little bit of money to a cause like this, I don't know if you've got any links or anything like that might help.
We have got some donate buttons on our websites and stuff. I mean,
just go and do it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, even a little bit. I mean, it does cost money to have decent websites and stuff, and it's something that the activists, unfortunately the little activists who sit on their computers and stuff, like to hack into websites of anything that's not giving their information, and so you've got to pay extra for extra security and all of that sort of stuff. So
so just any way you can help, you can make a difference. That's my point, right? All right, end of the show.
Thank you for having me.
We need you back again.
I'd love to. Thank you.
So many great comments, and I just want to throw it to Joe that I'm sitting here right now with three of my favourite women in the world. So there you go. And thank you for those messages. Joe, I'm having a giggle at you. No, and actually, I'm having a giggle with you.
I think you and Joe need to have a show together.
Oh, geez,
can you imagine
how fiery would that
Joe and Aaron show?
Oh, no, jeez.
I'd watch that one.
I would too.
I've lost enough hair.
We'd put Candy in the middle.
That'd be a hell of a show. Anyway, with that, we're going to finish. Thank you very much for being part of the One Thing here at Edge Radio Australia.
Ever felt lost online finding the right businesses?
Absolutely, like a needle in a haystack.
Introducing the Worldwide Awake Business Directory.
Tell me more.
It's your hub for businesses sharing your values. Discover eco-friendly products, socially responsible services, and more.
Count me in. I'll check it out straight away.
Find businesses aligned with your values on the Worldwide Awake Business Directory. Start making a difference with every purchase.